Warning, this podcast may contain bad language and controversial views of people and laws that some disabled people may find offensive, and content and bad language. I can't remember if I put them in.
Yeah, that's quite concise.
Great to have you here, T.
Yep, I'm back, baby.
You were never away.
I'm back for this week only, and then maybe not another week. I don't know. I don't know the order of these episodes.
T's going on vacation.
Yes, in the past or past.
I'll work something out with that then, I guess.
Yep. Welcome back to See Saw Podcastt, the show that is the wedding without enough chairs for the guests. We are back with a masturbate episode.
I feel this is... Hang on, you've just been to a wedding. That doesn't come out of nowhere.
There were plenty of chairs, it's fine.
Oh. Okay.
I was just referencing some weddings that don't have enough chairs.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never been to one of those.
I have.
Was it your wedding?
It was not my wedding. It was a relative's wedding. And the tables got very cozy.
But there were still enough chairs?
I genuinely don't know. It was one of those where, you have like the reserved table for like the bride and groom.
Oh, I thought you meant the reserve table for people that might just show up. We're not quite sure, but they're on the reserves bench.
No, but like the close family. And then before they all came in, there's people already sitting on that table. It's like, okay. Yeah, it was very bizarre. But I think everyone had a seat eventually. I'm not too sure, but I know they added like extra 2 or 3 seats on our table. Yeah.
Don't be that guy, but there was full of seats. It's called the floor.
Who's going to be sat on the floor at a wedding table?
Yeah. Lower the tables, go Japanese style.
I guess.
Yeah. How are we all doing? Selina, go to you first.
I'm all right. I'm a bit, I don't know, dehydrated maybe. The heat, got a bit of a headache.
Oh, if only you had like a pint of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spill everywhere prior to this recording. And then, like, first thing I did was pick up the empty glass and go and fill it up with more water before I actually cleared the water.
Oh, it was warm, you just said.
Yeah.
Plus, if you'd gone to the kitchen, you could have got a towel at the same time. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly. And you spilling it, it doesn't solve your dehydration.
I got a towel from the clean washing in the bathroom.
Oh. You should have just got a straw and just sucked it up.
Let's just hope my laptop's not broken. That'll make me cry.
God forbid the printer is.
Pour some Uncle Ben's on it, it'd be fine. Apparently that bullshit works.
The rice.
Yeah.
In my head, I had
like gravy or something.
Gravy? Do they make gravy?
I don't think so, but that's what came to mind.
No, they don't. They make gravy.
They might do. I think of like I don't know what I think of Bisto, I guess.
I'm sure Selina knows every sort of variety of sauce that Waitrose makes. Uncle Ben.
Anyway. How are you guys?
So well without you two. I'm good. T, have you also been to a wedding?
I have been to a wedding, and it was lovely. It was all in a garden. They did it themselves. They had been putting it together for like 3 months, like the garden.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought you meant like a wedding. Surely 3 months isn't long for a wedding.
No, the garden prep was like 3 months. Like they built a bar and everything out of wood.
I've been to one of
those. My printer's making noises.
I'm not impressed.
Can you hear that?
I'm a little impressed. What?
I'll say my printer's making noises randomly now. I don't know if you could hear that. It distracted. Sorry.
I still only have one question. It's why do you still have a printer?
Yeah, that's the important thing here.
It's good though. It's wireless, so like you can print directly from your phone.
What are you printing? I just don't get it.
Like when you need to print stuff, tickets and.
Why? Who's printing tickets? You got them on your phone. They literally are in like a little PDF on your phone. You show them your phone, done.
Not all venues accept that.
Right. Do you know what the sound of that printer is? It's not the printer, it's the paper and the rainforest weeping.
Yep.
The paper got very wet.
Okay.
The printer saga. Jesus. But no, anyway, very lovely wedding. And I'm quite tired because it was down south, so it was a lot of travel over the weekend. So
No, you should have had the day off today.
I did have the day off today.
Oh.
Yeah. And then was just doing bits and bobs. Yeah. Adulting. That's what it's all about.
Okay. Cleaves, cataract update. What's the stitch?
Cataract update. So I went to my follow-up appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Mixed bag here. They said, your cataract operation went really well. There's no swelling.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fluid buildup. There's no damage to your retina. We have absolutely no fucking idea why your vision in that eye is absolutely tanked.
Oh.
And because we are limited, we have no way of checking that either. So this is your life now. Bye.
Oh, God.
Can they not change the lens?
Maybe
Maybe go back to the long distance?
The lens is apparently fine. Everything to do with the operation was absolutely fine. However, they just have no idea. Previously, here's how I charted it myself. Previously, when you read the chart, like I could probably, read 4 lines down.
Right.
Not only could I not read anything on the chart, or when she held a chart closer to me, I struggled to read to look at the 3 fingers that she held up in front of my face without turning my eye.
Really?
So, to anyone that's getting a cataract operation that has a pre-existing condition and getting it on the NHS, I would say be very wary. I will not be getting my other eye done unless it is an absolute necessity. It would have to be cloudier than an English summer day.
Yeah. Might be time to lawyer up, mate.
Apparently the operation was a complete success.
Well,
so
they've got to say that, haven't they?
What have I got to fight?
You can't see.
Well, I don't know. I'm going back for a refraction test apparently in about a month's time. Well, 6 to 8 weeks. And I was like, what's that do? She was like, oh, we'll just sort of test your vision, see where it's at. Keep taking the drops. Who knows? It might get better. I'm like, thanks.
That's I need to refer you to a specialist, I think.
Yeah, to be fair, I got out of the hospital the next day and I was like, why did I not specifically ask for that? Because at the time I was asking quite a lot of questions. And at the end of it, I was getting a bit frustrated, and I literally turned to the doctor and went, I need to leave. So it was not great. But, at least there's no swelling or damage to the retina, apparently.
Yeah, but that's absolute bullshit. Like, it's not a success. It's like going in because your hand really hurts, and you go for a hand operation, and then they cut it off. And like, oh, it's a success. Your hand doesn't hurt anymore. Yeah, because I got a fucking hand. It's not a success, is it?
Well, I mean, if you look at it like that, then no. But
yeah,
mixed bag. The operation went well.
How can they say your retina looks fine when you've got retinitis pigmentosa? What are they even looking at? Because I'm assuming that retina can't look fine.
No. Yeah, but fine. It's not been additionally damaged from the operation, is what they meant.
Lawyer up, mate. It's NHS, you won't be able to do much, but lawyer up.
I looked at it in advance, but
that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. Well, tune in next time for hopefully a positive update on the cataract saga featuring Cleaves, and hopefully we'll have some positive things to go forward with.
Who knows?
If you'd like to donate your lenses,
your eyes,
you can email See Saw Podcastt@gmail.com. This is the one time we don't want feedback from a full blinky. Dear me. So, if no one else has anything else,
let's
get into it.
Shall we jump into this fantastic little topic?
Yeah.
Whip out the Johnson. It's time for masturbate.
Masturbates. Red wine. Why does it have to be drunk at room temperature when sangria is okay to drink cold?
Yep.
That's not the masturbates, but that is what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. Well, you can always put ice. You can drink what you want, man. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. The real masturbates that we're having today is based on something that I was listening to on a different podcast. And they were basically saying, should it be a choice that people on motorcycles wear a helmet or whether it should be law? And the idea was that the law was there to protect people. You have to wear a helmet, therefore it's protecting yourself if you crash, and it's to protect the ignorant and the stupid. So by that logic, I thought to myself, What about disabled people? Should they be using mobility aids or visible aids out in public to protect themselves? And if so, should it be law?
Mm.
And the first reason that I can think of that it should be law is the same as the motorbike saga, in the sense that it's there to protect you. It's there to protect not only the stupid and the ignorant, but people generally. It's there to stop you from injuring yourself whilst out and about. So, do we think this should be an actual law?
Well, that's the question of debate, isn't it? If we're talking about this specific, like for your own safety, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Like,
Have you had it where you've not taken a cane or a dog out and you've hurt yourself?
yes,
Is it your
Yep.
fault?
yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
I would say the fault is entirely on me.
If there was a law in place that said you had to go out and take your cane and or dog, do you think that would have prevented the accident from happening?
Well, it depends how much that law was enforced. As we know, disability legislation is not really enforced much, especially when you look at like access and building requirements. If you look at like general disability law, Equality Act stuff, it's more recommendations. It's treated as recommendations more than law.
Why?
Well, that's a whole nother debate on why disability law is just not really taken seriously.
Okay, in this instance then, why would the government recommend you do it but not enforce it like a crash helmet or a seatbelt for a car, for example?
Well, ultimately, with something like a crash helmet, they're not necessarily thinking of the individual. They're thinking about the cost to the NHS and like the inconvenience that will happen. Now, if you don't, I'm not saying you can't get equally as injured if you don't use, say, a long cane or a dog. But when you're on a bike, if you have a crash at 60 mile an hour and you're not wearing a helmet, you're going to need some serious medical attention.
Okay, but I'm not just talking about like people with a visual disability, right? Picture this scenario, right? There's a deaf guy.
Right.
They're working late, they've got stuff to do on the big Jefferson account or whatever, I don't know.
Okay.
And, they're upstairs in their office and most of the other people's left. Downstairs in the staff canteen, for whatever reason, there's a grease fire. Now, this guy's not wearing his hearing aid, cochlear implant, whatever. And, the building's on fire. Now, first thing that he recognizes is the smoke. Now, all of a sudden, he can't get out of the building because the downstairs floor is engulfed with flames.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to call the fire brigade, which can't do very well because they can't hear very well on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to get them out. Fire brigade's obviously been pulled out. They've also got to pull a person out of the building now because they've not heard this fire alarm go off.
Yeah.
And if they don't get there in time, potentially you get burnt and the NHS are going to have to do a load of skin grafts.
Yeah.
In that case, albeit the fire was an accident, whose fault is that?
Well, it's I wouldn't say it's the fault of that individual because you're talking about it's not reasonably foreseeable that a grease fire would occur. Is it something that can happen? Yeah, absolutely it could. But it's not a direct result of them not wearing their hearing aid. Does it mean it
But
causes
the injuries possibly are.
Yes, that is true. My concern would be why this building isn't compliant again with the Equality Act, where fire alarms have to have a visual aspect to them if you have someone of hard of hearing in your office. If they haven't noticed something because of like a flashing LED, which should be in place, then I would say the employer is to blame. But that's a very specific instance because they should have something visual for that instance. But I do get
What
what
if
you're
it's a
saying.
house fire? Exactly the same scenario, house fire.
But if people are sleeping, if we're going down the hearing impairment route, they don't sleep with their hearing aids on.
Touche.
Don't need
Or
to.
do they? I don't know.
I don't believe they do. I think they take it off. So it's easier to get to sleep if you can't hear anything. So then, yeah, I suppose you have to argue, do they have like a vibrating pillow or something if their smoke alarm goes off?
Probably, but it's not for that use.
No, it's just for comfort. Little snuggle time. Yeah.
All I mean is this is more than one example rather than the visual aspect.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I do get it. I think it depends on the individual circumstance. I think ultimately, like I was saying with like the motorcycle thing, if you go out without a long cane and you walk into a lamppost and you end up in A&E because you've like busted your nose up, right? That is going to be a drain to the NHS, but we're not talking about as much as someone coming off their bike at 70 miles an hour or not wearing a seatbelt and being jettisoned from a vehicle. Like we're talking tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of NHS cost here, as opposed to just a quick stitch up on the face.
What if a person's on an e-bike wearing a helmet?
Well, it is a legal requirement, but
right?
people don't do it.
They're on an e-bike, right? No, like a proper like e-motorcycle.
Okay.
They're wearing a helmet. You're not wearing a cane. The e-bike comes around a corner. They see someone on the pavement up ahead, and the person with a visual impairment just steps out in front of them.
Right.
Now, if that person with a visual impairment had a guide dog or a cane or something, like there's usually like a high-vis harness or something on the guide dog, right? Then potentially the person on the e-bike would have time to slow down.
Potentially, yeah.
But because they just think they're a normal person and have spotted them and are not going to cross, probably they're just going at regular speed. And then at that point, two people have been marked because one person has potentially not had a visible mobility aid on them.
I get what you're saying, but I think if they're in proximity to the point where damages could be caused to one or both parties, them having a visible aid isn't going to make a difference necessarily.
My point is, it's like when you take a hazard perception test, you could probably slow down a little bit if you saw a blind person on the pavement or waiting to cross. If you saw a person without a cane, you just think, they're going to wait for me.
Yeah. Yeah, potentially. Selina?
Yeah. It's when does it become a legal requirement? How disabled do you have to be before you have to use a mobility aid? What's the criteria?
Severely sight impaired registered.
Oh, but everyone does that so they can get the benefits.
Well, with benefits comes great responsibility.
Thanks, Spider-Man.
I think it was Uncle Ben, wasn't it? Going back to Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Not just known for his sources.
Yeah.
I think it is difficult. And it comes down to like you're saying, Selina, it comes down to what point do you enforce it, because it is a spectrum ultimately. And that's going to be very difficult to do. And ultimately then enforcing it,
But there's a clearly defined barrier with if you're registered severely sight impaired. You're registered, you're on a list, done.
True, but why are the police going to give a fuck about enforcing this? We're not talking
to save people's lives, T.
Well, I would like to see the stats of how many lives are lost because of this, as opposed to things that we do have regulation for, like seatbelts. I would say it is laughably small. Not that
of course
doesn't matter.
But do disabled people not matter? Yeah, that's what you're saying.
I'm not saying disabled people don't matter. I'm just saying the police aren't going to be carding every disabled person because they've got better things to do. It's a petty thing that they're not going to do.
You could drop them a quick fine. Just think of it as like racial profiling, but disabled profiling.
Yeah, that's my concern. That if anything, the police have too much power.
Do you know what? Actually, we didn't write this down on the anti side of things. But okay.
Yeah. The police do have too much power, and ultimately we want them to be doing the bigger things as opposed to doing more of the smaller things.
Tell that to a family of, that person that's just hit a tree on their e-motorbike.
Yeah, but I think that it comes down to the individual, like the disabled person. They need to have the moral fortitude much like someone who drinks and drives, you have to have the morality and be a good enough person to know that you might have a negative impact on other people and yourself if you don't use something that you know you should be using. If you make that conscious choice, then yeah, that's we'll talk about a morality
Yeah,
side
but
of things.
motorcycle helmets are not a moral choice. That's the point. It's to stop people being fucking stupid.
And, you know, people don't wear helmets because they think it's not cool to wear a helmet. And it's the same thing with mobility aids, especially with a cane. People think it's not cool to use a cane. So it's the same thing if you look at it like that. It
My
doesn't
thing,
matter for safety.
yeah, I mean, my thought on it personally is if you need a mobility aid and you choose not to use it, then you know, don't complain when you get hurt. Like that's completely on you. If you require it and you choose not to because it doesn't look cool, well, I'm sorry, but if you hurt yourself, then that's entirely on you. Don't moan about it. Get off of Twitter, or Facebook. Stop bitching about something that you ultimately caused. The thing that I care more about is whether it has an impact on other people.
That's moved on nicely to part two. Should you have to use a mobility aid or disability aid by law in order to prevent other people from getting harmed?
Now, in the UK at the moment, there is, because we're masturbating this, there is no criminal aspect to it necessarily of not using one and then causing harm to someone else, not overtly. However, it will go against you in a court, in a criminal court, especially a civil court, because ultimately, what the law will look at is something being reasonably foreseeable, and they will look at the negligence, the statute of negligence as well. If you know that you should be doing something and you choose not to, and you hurt someone else, you have a duty of care to that individual,
Yeah,
which you have
but this
breached.
person might not know because they're stupid or ignorant.
No, but that's up.
And it's not a law for them to do it.
No, but that's up to a judge to decide or for a jury to decide. If it is proven that it is reasonably foreseeable that by not using your mobility aid, something bad could happen to you or another person, then that makes you accountable in the legal sense. In the same way that
But surely that's
if you,
reasonable, foreseeable for the judge, not for the person using the mobility cane.
well,
If
no,
they're uneducated, then that's not a foreseeable option for them.
well, no, but we're talking about the person who has caused the incident.
Yeah, that's the stupid person.
Yeah, it's
in this
reasonably
case.
foreseeable that this could happen. Would a person think this is a reasonable outcome to not using mobility
But that's what I
aid?
mean. This person's stupid. They don't know that.
No, but the law, like the legal representation, will say that yeah, if you're not going to use your long cane and you walk into someone and you've knocked them down, would that have happened if you were using your cane? Probably not. So it's reasonably foreseeable that that could have happened if you chose not to use your cane. In which case, you could have criminal proceedings brought against you if someone has been hurt.
Even now, without this being law.
Yep, absolutely. Because it would go against you as far as your negligence. It's a statute of negligence. You have been negligent and caused harm by your action or inaction. And especially in a civil case, if there were civil proceedings, you have no chance of winning a civil case. If it's something that you are using because, let's say, you have had it provided to you by your council or you've had some form of mobility training, you have no chance of winning a civil case if you've hurt someone. Absolutely none. Because they'll say that that's something you should have been using. And the first thing they'll say is, were you using your long cane, for example? I'd be like, no, I wasn't. Done. There won't be any further questions to it. It's like, well, there you go. You were negligent. You hurt someone. It's your fault. And then it might cost you quite a lot of money.
That was going to be my next question. What's that likely to cost you?
It depends on the. It depends.
That's on the damage.
It depends on the damage, loss of earnings, any medical expenses that might be incurred, which could be things from prescriptions to specialist care. If the person chose to go privately for their healthcare instead of NHS, you would have to pick up that bill, providing it was a reasonable amount. Like, don't go out and start getting like scans on your legs when your legs aren't hurt. You know what I mean? That sort of shit. And then yeah, loss of earnings, for physical pain, mental anguish, that sort of thing. It could cost you 10,000, 50,000. Could cost you more than that. It depends how severe it was. Especially if it's a costing of earnings, if you can't work because you've been hurt. it's going to be a hefty amount there. And maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm disabled, I'm on benefits, I can't do that. Well, they'll look at your income and they will garnish your income. Even if it's benefits, they will take some of it until it is paid back, even if that takes 30 years. Because the person who you don't directly pay them, not in the UK, the court system will reimburse that individual, and then the money will be taken off of you, the defendant, for as long as it takes for that to be done. And if you're again thinking, oh, 30 quid a month for the rest of my life, that's fine. Well, you won't be able to go on holiday. You won't be able to get finance on anything. You will not be able to do anything, because they'll immediately say, if you can afford to go on holiday, you can afford to pay us back more. So it'll basically blacklist you. So good fucking luck. So
I'm just wondering, could you argue the social model of disability that said accident or incident would not have occurred if society was built to be more disabled friendly, and therefore the need to use a cane or any other mobility aid was not needed?
Well, that's it, innit?
you could, but let's say, an example, you have a blind person who's chosen not to use their long cane. They're walking down the street, they hit someone, knock them off a curb, and they get hit by, say, a push bike. How are you going to change the world as per the social model to make sure that the world is accessible for that not to happen?
It's maybe not changing though. It's more about the blame. If you can, the social model is becoming more accepted, and if you can turn around and go, well, not actually my fault, because if you look at the social model, the world wasn't built for people with disabilities, and therefore it's not my fault, it's the world's fault.
You can say that, but it won't save you in a court. Because the social model is not legislation. It's a scientific principle which has no grounds in the legal system. So they might understand that, and you might get an acknowledgement, but ultimately it does not change any of the legal aspects that you've infringed on.
In the sense that, sorry, Selina, you go.
I'll say, you said this person fell off a curb.
Yep.
If this was a drop curb that was accessible for wheelchair users, they may not have fallen off said curb into said road to be hit by said push bike.
So in this ideal world, we need every curb to be a drop curb.
I think wheelchair users.
But then how would you know where the road is?
Because then you have little tactile markings across next to the drop curb, you know. So
I'm not sure that's financially viable for the entire country.
So every road has to be a tactile drop curb for literally every road.
Yeah.
Start to get on that.
Where to cross.
Good point. You can cross anywhere.
You have extra tactile markings for where it's safe, because that's how it is now. Depending how deep tactile markings are, it's how safe it is to cross.
Okay, what about vehicles parking or going up on the curbs, which is why we have elevated curbs to deter vehicles.
They're not supposed to park on the curb.
No, but raised curbs are to deter vehicles from doing that. And although some vehicles do still do it, it is there to deter them from doing it. If you had a drop curb anywhere,
shouldn't need to be deterred. They should just follow the law anyway.
Sting strips, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, spikes on every curb now.
Spikes on every curb.
That'd be great. Yeah.
I just think it's an unrealistic thing, like an adaptation. I think accidents happen. They do. They always will do. You can't plan to avoid all accidents. You are going to have them. But if you have, through your inaction, caused something.
However, you could have caused something because you had your cane, sweeping it across, swinging it along, whacking someone, and just the same, push them into the road. Then what was it if you didn't have that cane and weren't forced to use that cane? That accident wouldn't have happened.
Well, because
what do you do?
If you were using your cane, then although you would still may be liable in the civil case, and that would be up to whoever's proceeding it. So it could be a magistrate, it could be, well, depends what level it went to. The criminal sense, you probably wouldn't have any criminal criminal proceedings brought against you.
I imagine it's a fairly easy argument to go, yeah, but I didn't see it. And I did have my cane, so I was just trying my best.
Yeah, but what I mean, yeah, that's the thing. There would still be ultimately you need to have with any criminal proceedings, you have to have motive and you have to have like the action itself. And people with motive, or you meant to do it. No. Negligence is also a motive. Um, so if that doesn't exist because you were using your cane, then that part of the case doesn't exist. So the Crown Prosecution Service would not go further with it. It would be dismissed.
Why aren't you using your cane properly?
There's no way of proving that one way or the other. Unless you had CCTV cameras and then you have to get an expert in and all that sort of thing. And frankly, the CPS, they're not even going to look at that. It's a huge waste of time for them. They just wouldn't bother. Unless you'd killed someone, or put someone in like a coma or something. If we're talking like minor-ish, like medium minor injuries, they're not going to give a shit. They don't want to clog up the court system with that. They just won't. For the civil case, that's for you to have a good solicitor, because there's still a civil suit there. So that would come down to your legal representation versus theirs, because even using your means would still, you are still accountable, because you can't subtract from the fact that you have had a negative impact on that person's life, even if you were using your accessible aids. Like they might win the case and you might not have to pay anything. That's something that can very much happen in a civil case, but that comes down to that individual instance. So no criminal, but there might still be civil, but ultimately, it comes down to your representation.
Dragon Pockets on the chat has put something, well, I'm paraphrasing here, but you know, at work where you have like safety training, you have like ladder training, box training, lifting training, all that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
If a government scheme is rolled out to people with a disability that are claiming benefits, and the scheme is designed to say, you have this particular disability within a broad range, let's be fair, we can't do everyone's specific needs, then you have to be acting in this particular way, otherwise these are the consequences. Rather than a full law, would that make more sense?
Disability awareness training for the disabled.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, but the reason that we push things through legislation while we have laws for health and safety and things like that is because to regulate it would cost so much resource and money that it's just impossible to do. And I think this would also fall under that. I think that look what they did with the PIP, like when we transitioned to PIP from DLA. It cost billions and it was a fucking cock up. It was a mess.
I'm not even sure what the difference is either.
There pretty much isn't none.
It's just a name change.
No. There's no lower care component anymore. Basically.
Okay. So the lowest get screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good idea in principle, but I think actually implementing it would be impossible without billions of pounds of infrastructure, and the country and the state it is, like, there's no chance that that's ever going to happen. Potentially something that could be done at school for disabled children.
Roll it out at an early age.
Yes, the disability of the child, but anyway.
Yeah. Also, sometimes it's degenerative. At the age of 5, I wasn't blind. At the age of 8, I was on the register. Not that register.
Yeah. No, it's very complex. It would, in theory, be good, but ultimately, who will be trying to protect it? Is it the public? Is it
people from getting themselves injured? Disabled people, the wives and families of disabled people, the people that they may harm by accident. Obviously, I assume you're not going to go out and deliberately do it, but
I mean, okay. This is where I think that this would come down to, and I'm not saying that disabled people have no value. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I will preface with that. But I imagine that any instance where this might be a thing, they'll look at the statistics of the amount of disabled people getting hurt. They'll look at how much it would cost to do this, and then they would say, "No, it's fine, don't care."
That is a fair point. Yeah.
And that would be the attitude of policymakers. That is not my opinion. I don't want people getting hurt because of because of crazy shit happening and not because of their own fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you're looking at a bill of £10 billion to roll out and upkeep something for 10 years, and
Yeah,
it's
but you know,
costing the
you
country,
could potentially limit their aftercare in NHS. You could fine them. You could, oh man.
let's find the unemployed, because that's always going to work.
Oh shit.
Unemployed.
I mean, a significant amount of people
Wow.
are unemployed.
A good amount. Some are. Some are.
Yeah, and there are a lot that are working who work very hard. I don't think finding people is the right way to do it.
No, that's fair. It was just
Mm.
You
a throw out there.
you can't make someone's life worse through punishment in this regard can't make someone's life worse
Why?
because it's called unusual punishment. You can't do that.
What? Isn't that what punishment is? You go to prison, your life's worse.
Yes, but you still get looked after in prison. Yes, you have certain freedoms revoked, but you cannot make someone's day-to-day life worse for
You just talk about garnishing people's benefits. Okay, that might make them slightly worse off, but
Yeah,
doesn't prison make you slightly worse off by not being able to walk around with your freedom?
But what's the end game of that? If garnishing their benefits is to
To
compensate
the family, yeah.
oh yeah, if that's the case, then that will happen in the civil case, and that's fine, but not in a criminal sense.
Oh, what? Just in the case of to fuck you,
Yeah,
as a
not
yeah,
fuck
okay.
you to fuck you. I think it's absolutely no way at all. If it is to compensate others who you have harmed through your negligence, absolutely. I think that's absolutely fair. You have made a choice and it had a consequence. So I think that's absolutely fine. But don't fuck people just to fuck them. There's no point in that. No one wins. People don't learn lessons that way. If you look at repeat offending rates in the UK, they are staggeringly high because it isn't a deterrent. You're not going to get people, to start behaving the way you want them to because you punish them in certain ways like that.
Mhm. Okay, so in summary then, yes or no, should disability aids be required by law or not?
No.
Selena?
No, but people should take more responsibility and think twice before they choose not to use their mobility aid. Because I don't think I ever considered other people's safety or my safety when I used to refuse to use such mobility aids.
Yeah.
Fucking rebel over here.
And,
You were the one riding that e-motorcycle, weren't you, from earlier?
yeah. Yeah.
If it was me, I would say I also don't think that it should be made law. However, like a training program of some type that could be rolled out, which effectively made you liable if you weren't using your mobility aids to whatever sense it should be used to, should be a thing.
Yeah, like an awareness course.
Yeah,
Because you
basically.
already are liable.
Hmm.
Like you absolutely are.
But more of an open and shut. We're giving you this course. You should know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, just yeah. If you don't use what you have and you hurt someone or yourself, like these are the consequences of what can happen there.
Yeah.
I think that's
You know,
absolutely
like
reasonable.
those adverts driving and they use the dummies and they crash and shit. Like this is what would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crash.
Well, I just meant a proper full-on tick to say, you've got the right answers here. Tick to say you've done it. Sign your name. That's it. You're on file now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
You want your benefits? Sign this petition. Not petition, if you know what I mean.
No. No, I get it. But what I will say is it will never happen. And can you imagine the uproar from the bloody,
Everyone.
keyboard warriors out there? Right. It would be huge.
It would be right.
Absolutely massive. So, yeah, it will never happen. It'll be like, why are you victimizing us? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, I kind of get it.
Duty of care, though.
It is. I mean, yeah, the law covers everyone. And, yeah, maybe this should be the required listening for all disabled people. So, if you have a disabled friend or relative or anyone disabled in your life, send them this episode in particular and just say, if you don't use your mobility aids, because I know you're not been using them, and you hurt someone, not only could you be liable criminal in a criminal court, you could also be out of a lot of fucking money. So maybe think about that before leaving, your prosthetic leg at home and just hopping down the shops.
Wow. And on that note,
I think the episode was quite offensive.
do you reckon? I think we did a roundabout thing. I think we tried our best. That's all anyone can ever ask for, right?
Yeah, I tried to bring the legal knowledge in. But yeah, maybe it's a bit dry.
You're dry. I'm not dry because it's so fucking warm in the attic.
Fucking boiling.
Right, and on that, we shall see you soon. Goodbye to everyone on Twitch, and goodbye, and see you next week for some Paralympic stuff.
Yeah.
Para.
Woo.
I don't know why that's just made a... Anyway, bye.
Bye.
That's like the Coldplay song.
Para.
No.
Oi.
Paradise.
Para.
Thank you for listening to See Saw Podcastt. Your feedback and comments mean a lot to us, so if you'd like to get in touch, you can do so in the following ways.
You can find us on X at See Saw Pod, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at See Saw Podcast. You can email us at seesawpodcast@gmail.com and you can stream with us live every week on Twitch at See Saw Podcast.
Remember to like, rate, review and share with a friend.
This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience.